A really cruel scam known as pig butchering has struck yet another Bay Area resident. This time, an elderly widow in San Jose thought she found new love online.
Instead, she was targeted by crypto scammers who took nearly $1 million of her money. 7 on your side, Stephanie Sierra says it left her with almost nothing to live on.
Margaret Loke is a widow in her 70s living in San Jose, California, and she wasn't looking for anything complicated, just a quieter life after loss, and maybe a little companionship in a world that increasingly lives on screens. According to Loke, the connection arrived through Facebook, where a friend introduced her to a man who sounded familiar, culturally fluent, and unusually attentive. The relationship moved quickly into daily messaging on WhatsApp, where good morning texts became routine, affection became language, and trust became a habit. Then the digital conversation pivoted into something else: cryptocurrency, a trading platform, and the promise that her money could grow fast. According to Loke, that shift ultimately cost her nearly $1 million, plus additional borrowed funds. As she wired money in escalating amounts to an overseas operation she only recognized for what it was after consulting an unexpected source: ChatGPT. She says the chatbot warned her she was likely trapped in a scam and told her to contact police, an alarm bell that arrived after the fraud had already done its damage. Loke's story, as she describes it, is not a tale of someone chasing a reckless get-rich fantasy. It is the story of how modern scams weaponize ordinary digital behavior: messaging apps, social media referrals, online account dashboards, until the boundary between real life and a carefully managed illusion collapses. According to Loke, she was living alone and spending much of her time at home. Her kitchen, she says, became less a place for cooking and more a place where paperwork accumulated: bank statements, wire confirmations, and transaction records that documented the moment her retirement savings began to move out of her control. She describes herself as simple, not experienced in trading, and not someone who considered investing part of her daily identity. That detail matters because pig butchering scams don't require technical brilliance from the victim. They require routine digital trust, trusting the person on the other side of a profile photo, trusting the interface of a platform, and trusting the story that explains why money must move now. According to Loke, the scam began in May when a friend connected her with a man on Facebook who claimed his name was Ed, a businessman of Chinese descent who said he was from Texas and liked meeting people from San Jose. The first stage was social engineering, building rapport, creating emotional dependency, and establishing a rhythm of communication. WhatsApp made that rhythm easy. It's encrypted end to end. It feels private, and it normalizes intimate conversation with people you've never met. According to Loke, Ed greeted her every morning, called her honey, and told her he liked her. They shared pictures of food, talked about daily routines, and reinforced the idea that their connection was special. She says he wouldn't meet in person and urged secrecy, which in hindsight reads like a standard control mechanism: limit outside scrutiny, reduce chances that friends or family will challenge the narrative, and keep the victim inside a closed-loop communication channel. Then, according to Loke, the conversation moved into finances. Ed began asking what investments she had. She told him she didn't have any and described herself as a simple person. She says he presented himself as wealthy and knowledgeable, and he offered what sounded like a low-friction entry point into crypto trading, talking about investing and returns as if it were a shared project, a couple's plan, a future that could be built together. According to Loke, he suggested crypto investing and even offered to give her $15,000 to start, but she declined, saying she had her own money. That moment, when the victim insists on using her own funds, can actually strengthen the scammer's leverage later because it reframes the victim as independent and consenting, not coerced. According to Loke, Ed guided her through wiring money into an online account and logging in to a cryptocurrency investment site. This is a key technical hinge in many pig butchering operations. The victim is led to a platform that appears to function like a legitimate trading interface, showing balances, profits, and growth, often in real time. The display may look like a standard dashboard with numbers that update quickly, reinforcing the illusion of market activity. Loke says she traded $15,000 and watched it become about $24,000 in seconds. That kind of instant gain isn't just bait, it's behavioral conditioning. It trains the victim to associate compliance with reward, and it turns the platform interface into a trusted source of truth, even though the victim cannot independently verify whether any real trades occurred. According to Loke, after the initial apparent profit, Ed urged her to invest more and promised massive returns, telling her to trust him and suggesting she could make $1 million. She says she wired $120,000 from her IRA into Discover Bank and then onward into the account Ed had arranged. Again, the platform showed profits. Then the numbers escalated. Loke says Ed pushed her to add $490,000. She hesitated at the size of the request, but he framed it as necessary to reach a shared goal. She recalls a target of $5 million. This is another hallmark of the scheme: escalation disguised as strategy. The victim is given a narrative where each new transfer is not a new risk, but simply the next step in a plan that already appears to be working. According to Loke, she wired the $490,000 from her IRA. The platform again indicated her money was growing. She says she followed Ed's instructions because she didn't know how to trade, describing herself as someone who relied on his guidance. She then sent another $62,000, what she describes as the last of her IRA funds. At that point, the scam had achieved a devastating objective: move legitimate retirement assets into the scammer's pipeline through repeated, authorized transfers that the victim executed herself, making reversal difficult and the paper trail complex. Then, according to Loke, the tone changed. Ed wanted another $1 million dose. When she said she didn't have it, she says he became relentless, pushing her to borrow. In a pig butchering operation, this is where the emotional manipulation merges with financial extraction. The relationship becomes a debt engine, and the victim's remaining assets, home equity, credit, personal networks, are treated as fuel. Loke says she searched for a lender, obtained a $300,000 second mortgage, and wired that money as well. On the platform, she says her account now appeared to total $2.4 million. That number is not just a figure, it's a trap. It makes the victim feel like quitting would mean abandoning a fortune that is already theirs, even though the balance exists only as pixels. When Loke tried to withdraw, according to her account, the platform froze her money. Ed told her she needed to come up with another $1 million to unfreeze the account or lose everything. This is a classic extraction technique. Invent a fee, tax, penalty, or verification cost that must be paid before release. It resembles legitimate financial friction. Real platforms do sometimes require verification or impose withdrawal limits, so the demand can sound plausible to someone unfamiliar with how crypto custody and withdrawals should work. But the scale and urgency are the tell. Loke says Ed pressured her to borrow from friends and threatened legal action when she couldn't. She describes receiving a voice message in which he warned that he didn't want them to become enemies and said his lawyers would contact her. At that point, the scam's technology stack had done its job. Facebook had provided a credible entry point via a friend connection. WhatsApp had provided an intimate, persistent channel for daily influence. The trading platform interface had provided false confirmation that money was multiplying, and the banking system had provided rails for transferring large sums out of retirement accounts and into overseas hands. According to Loke, the breakthrough came when she consulted ChatGPT. She says the chatbot told her it was a scam and advised going to the police. She describes panicking and confronting Ed, accusing him of scamming her, an accusation that, in many cases, triggers the scammer to disappear or intensify pressure with threats. According to reporting in her story, The money she wired ended up at a bank in Malaysia, where scammers collected it. The scheme is described as pig butchering, an organized approach in which long-term grooming precedes financial slaughter, often run by overseas networks that manage multiple victims at once. The technology isn't futuristic, it's ordinary. That is the point. Cybersecurity experts who study these scams note that the warning signs tend to be visible in hindsight, but obscured in the moment by constant messaging and emotional engagement. The first red flag is isolation, a relationship pushed into secrecy and kept entirely online. Another is the refusal to meet in person, combined with rapid escalation into investment advice. And in the technical layer, experts warn that a platform showing dramatic profits in seconds should be treated as suspicious, especially when the user cannot verify trades through a regulated exchange, independent statements, or a known financial institution. Security researchers also point to the structure of the payment flow as a warning. Repeated wire transfers routed through intermediary accounts and then directed overseas is not how legitimate crypto investing typically begins for a retail user. A legitimate platform also does not require a massive extra payment to unfreeze a balance. That pattern is widely associated with fraud operations that invent fees to extract more money after the victim is already depleted. As for what happens after the victim realizes the trap, the digital investigation can be difficult. In cases like this, cybercrime reporting often involves local law enforcement and federal channels, such as the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center, where victims can file complaints that help identify patterns across jurisdictions. Cybercrime investigators may attempt to trace funds, but when money is moved through international banks, rapidly transferred onward, or converted through crypto services, the trail can become fragmented. The victim may have transaction records, wire receipts, and account details, but the platform itself, especially if it was operated offshore or designed to vanish, may offer no meaningful customer support and no accountable operator. Loke's current reality, according to her, is devastatingly physical despite the scam's digital nature. She fears losing the condo she bought for retirement. She faces not only the missing money, but also financial consequences from withdrawing large amounts from her IRA in a short period, which can trigger taxes and penalties. The scam didn't just drain an account, it restructured her life around damage control. This case also sits inside a broader surge in tech-enabled fraud, where social engineering scales through platforms built for connection. Romance scams have evolved into hybrid operations that combine emotional manipulation with investment theatre, convincing dashboards, coordinated scripts, and payment pipelines that move money fast. The growth of cryptocurrency has added a layer of complexity because funds can be transferred quickly, and victims may not understand the difference between a real exchange, a custodial wallet, and a website that merely simulates balances. Meanwhile, AI tools are changing the moment of realization. Loke's story suggests that a conversational model became for her a kind of emergency second opinion when human trust had already been compromised. Cybersecurity experts recommend a few practical defenses against this class of fraud. Verify identities outside the platform where contact began. Treat secrecy as a major warning sign, and be skeptical of any investment opportunity that requires wiring large sums to accounts that are not clearly tied to regulated institutions. They also stress the importance of slowing down transactions, because fraud relies on urgency and momentum. Before moving funds, a person can independently verify the platform's legitimacy, confirm the withdrawal process in writing, and consult trusted third parties who are not emotionally entangled in the relationship. And when a platform claims funds are frozen, pending a fee, experts warn that paying more often deepens the loss rather than unlocking anything. Margaret Loke says she is trying to save her home, the last stable asset she has left. Her story is a reminder that the most dangerous scams in 2026 don't always look like obvious hacks. Sometimes they look like affection delivered through encrypted messages, profits displayed on a polished interface, and a series of transfers that feel, step by step, like they are moving toward a future, until the future is gone.
Margaret lost not only her savings, but now faces a huge tax bill for withdrawing all the funds out of her IRA account at once. Now, 7 on Your Side has heard from several other victims of pig butchering. An important warning here: to never invest with someone you've never met.